Crack-a-lack.
Remembering a son tragically stolen and a talented singer graces our stage today on Lansing's Best.
I stay up on my grind, money always on my mind. You already know who's #1 after this. Superheroes in music, we've been doing this for years. Look around, you won't see me all you at this. We show up and shut the city down. If you didn't know, we'd hide around. So stand back, I'm about to make it see.
Hi, and thank you for watching Lansing's Best. Today I'm here with Frances and Tamper Allen, who lost their son Demarcus to a senseless act of violence. Hi.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming and talking about something that's really important and really poignant, and it's a very interesting story, but it's also steeped in a lot of sadness. So I thank you for being willing to share it with us.
Thank you.
So why don't you tell us about Demarcus? I hear that he was quite a kid.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he was a busybody at a young age. You know, he was always wanted to be involved in something.
And couldn't sit still like most boys.
Oh,
Never.
not at all.
Never. You'd have to tell Marcus 15 different times the same thing. And even then it wasn't enough, you know.
Well, and that activity later, as he got older, got more focused, and you thought about putting him in boxing.
Yes. There came a time where, you know, he didn't know what sport he wanted to be involved in, whether it be track, football, basketball, or boxing. And as time progressed, we realized that he had a gift with his hands, you know, so that's where we were headed. You know.
And in an effort to have him use his hands in a gym rather than anywhere else, too.
Definitely.
Yes,
Definitely.
definitely.
As a growing boy, you didn't want him practicing on anybody.
Not in school.
Not in school. So now, can you tell me a little bit about what happened to Demarcus and how you found out, the phone call that changed everything?
Actually, me and my husband, we were at home, laying in the bed. My cell phone rang. It's my mother. She actually called and gave me the news and said that Demarcus had been shot. You know, I was in denial, couldn't believe it, but I jumped right in the vehicle, rushed over there. We can't actually say rush, because with something like that, couldn't get there fast enough. And yeah, I got there and he was gone in the paramedics.
So he was gone once you got there?
Yes, he was.
And then now, at this time, you call your husband?
Yes, I called my husband and told him, you know, he was rushed to Sparrow. I just couldn't think straight, you know.
Well, and that's what you said. You said that you had a moment of denial where you couldn't even...
Right. The initial phone call, I actually thought it was a joke, you know. And then it couldn't happen to my son. Maybe they have the wrong Demarcus. But when my wife called me and I heard it in her voice, I knew it was real. And, you know, I got in my vehicle and went up to Sparrow and saw it, you know, all the commotion. And
We should mention, too, that although Demarcus was good with his hands, he wasn't a violent kid. He wasn't a child who was involved with anything inappropriate.
Not
he
at
was
all.
just a kid that went to school and came home and had friends and, you know, was thinking about boxing and
Right.
planning for the future. But this was not something that you weren't waiting for a phone call like
Oh,
this.
no.
Not
you
at
know,
all.
this is
No.
completely blindsiding you.
Absolutely. Marcus, he was unique. I mean, he involved himself with his grandparents, you know, which a lot of kids, you know, they don't do that anymore. So he wanted to know how Granddad was doing daily. You know, he's just a good kid.
And he was 18 when this happened.
Yes.
A couple of 22 days after his birthday, he got killed, yes.
And so what happened? What was this? I mean, because like we're not expecting this. And what story do you hear?
Well, there was a day in February of '09 where Demarcus and his friends were walking eastbound on Isabel Street, crossing Cedar Street, and a young lady hit Demarcus with her car. So when he fell, he grabbed a rock and threw the rock at the car, which an argument ensued afterwards. And as far as we know, that was the end of it. As far as Demarcus and his friends knew, that was the end of it. But months later, October of '09, the incident arose again. And the events that led up to the demise of our son.
And so it had been many months, and this is a very, very small event. I mean,
Yes.
I had someone honk at me this week. I remember only because he had my son's school magnet on the side of his car, so I knew I was going to run into him later.
Right.
But I don't remember things like that for very
Right.
long. Like, you go on with your life and you do things, you keep going. And so for Demarcus even, I can't imagine what the surprise of even hearing about it in October
Right.
from
Yes.
February.
Well, he knew something was going to happen because he didn't want to take the same route back home.
So he had some fear.
Yeah,
Yes.
some kind of concern because he didn't want to go the same route back. And he did deviate from his original path back home.
Now, what were some of the questions and of your family once Demarcus had been shot? What was the perception?
Oh, that he was involved in a gang or drugs or, what was he doing? And as parents, we're like, what do you mean, what was he doing? Just being a teenager,
But the perception was that he had done, he obviously must have deserved this in some way.
In some way, like I said, there's question from individuals on what was he into? What was he doing? He had to be doing something. And that's the furthest thing from the truth.
Yes, definitely.
Well, I think we have to, as society, we have to make explanations for things. We want to make things make sense. And sometimes at the expense of people who are suffering.
Right.
Because we don't want to imagine that in our daily lives with our children who are doing well and not doing anything wrong, that they could just be shot on the street.
Right.
So, well, we are going to come right back and we are going to talk some more about what happened, the court case, and how Demarcus's life ended.
When the voice is gone, the hand says it all. When the hand is gone, nothing is said at all. The freedom to write, the freedom to fight, the freedom to express yourself. It takes one hand to wear the bracelet, but two to put them on. Next time you get dressed, don't forget about your wrist.
We're back with Tamper and Frances to talk more about their son Demarcus. So, is the one who actually shot your son.
Yes.
But he wasn't the only one involved, and the story is actually much deeper than that. Can you share a little bit of that with me?
Sure. There was a young lady by the name of that, to me, was the motivating factor behind everything. She is the individual that could have prevented all of this. At any given time throughout the months that led up to his passing. Yet, she's still free.
Now, she's the one who allegedly was, that was the car she was driving that Demarcus threw the rock at, but she was also driving the car for
Yes.
at the time when he came to find your son.
Yes.
And who else was in the car? I found this part to be very interesting.
Her child.
So she took her child and her boyfriend and allegedly went to go find your son
Yes.
over something that happened
months prior.
months ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, it wasn't how you do that, to even have a child involved in something of that magnitude is unbelievable, Even to this day, we still can't believe it.
Now, did you find it to be horribly ironic that your parenting was being questioned, your son's character was being questioned, when you think about the dynamics of what was going on with the people who actually were aggressive towards your son?
Of course. The initial interviews with the police department, it wasn't good. I mean, to the first series of questioning was he involved in a gang? Was his friends involved in a gang? Is this gang related or drug related? That's disheartening to hear. That's not what we want to hear. Mm-hmm. We want to hear that you found whoever did this.
Yeah. Now family.
Yes.
You're quite close, actually. I mean, since you moved to your family moved to Lansing, you've been friends.
Right.
And tell me about how he was encouraged to turn himself in.
Well, like you said, when we moved here from Mississippi in the mid-'70s, the family befriended our family, and we became close over the years. And we just had a good, genuine love for each other. Mm-hmm. So when the incident happened, it was his family that encouraged him to turn himself in. I
have a lot of respect for that, and I'm sure we kind of discussed it in the back. As mothers, you have to support your children in even accepting consequences for their most awful choices.
Which is true.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned that the events changed your prayers, the way that you pray.
Yeah. I believe in a higher power, and this is how I was raised. When you pray, you ask for, your forgiveness and so on and so forth. It's your own conversation with the Lord. But when this incident happened, my prayers changed. So I'm asking the Lord to please rain down on this brother like I know you can. Mm-hmm. And I felt like it was appropriate at that time. Even to this day, it's still appropriate. Some days I feel like I shouldn't pray like that, but I have no choice. I have no choice. This is what's on my heart.
Can we talk about what were the consequences? There was a 2-week trial.
Yes, it was.
2-week trial, graphic pictures, pictures that I didn't want my wife to see.
So he was convicted of second degree
murder, sentenced to 27 to 30 years in prison.
With or without the possibility of parole?
With the possibility of parole.
No jail time, no consequences as far as her child being in the car?
No. She was able to get 5 years probation, community service, basically a slap on the wrist.
Now, you have other children.
Yes.
How many other children do you have?
2.
2.
Yes.
And so they're obviously grieving and mourning the loss of their brother.
Yes.
And how has that been for your family?
Well, it's not good. It's not good. I have a 6-year-old that, even to this day, is still asking, is Marcus in heaven? And that right there is enough to impact anyone to even hear that. We have an 11-year-old that looks like Demarcus, walks like Demarcus, talks like Demarcus, and sometimes it's scary. Sometimes I turn away from him because it's just me seeing Demarcus all over again. And it's not anything that he's doing wrong. These are our babies, and this is what we have.
So now as a family that's continuing on to live in this area, and I'm sure you probably hear the violence that goes on with more volume than you probably did in the past. How do you think that's affected what you'd like to see people, their reaction to violence here in the city?
Well, with everything that's going on, you would hope that it gets better in Lansing, but with everything that continues to go on, there's, me personally, I feel a sense of urgency to reach out to other people or other kids that I see that are lost, We need help. And who better to help someone? After going through something like this, you don't want to see anyone else's child go through this type of tragedy.
Or any other mother or any other father. Absolutely. So I did want to tell you, I live on the same street where Demarcus was murdered. And I remember seeing all of the flowers and the balloons that were left for him by friends and family who obviously loved him and had great respect for him. And I just want to say that I'm so sorry for your loss. And I think that that's a great example and a visual reminder of just how much he was worth on this planet, right, and that his memory obviously is going to continue. So thank you so much for coming and sharing his story with me.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. And we will be right back with more of Lansing's Best.
If you would like to be a guest on Lansing's Best, hit us up at lansing'sbest@newvisionent.com. Or you can follow us on Twitter at Lansing's Best.
Hi, we're here with Shaton Andrews, a professional singer, poet, and writer. Hi, Shaton.
Hi.
Welcome to Lansing's Best.
Thank you.
Now, you are an amazing singer. How many contests have you won so far?
Off the top of my head, about 5.
What was your favorite?
Well, the two most recent, I won in 2009, the Soaring Eagle Casino Superstars Contest, and I had an opportunity to perform with some of the American Idol finalists at the Soaring Eagle later that year. And I also went to Harlem in New York City and competed in amateur night at the Apollo Theater. That was phenomenal.
Did you rub the stump?
I rubbed the stump. That was the best. I think that was probably one of my favorite competitions performances. I didn't win that one, but just being on that stage, knowing
so
there had
history.
been so many legends that had performed on that stage, it was
Michael Jackson, the Jackson 5.
Yes, Stevie Wonder, James Brown, Lauryn Hill. There have been so many people that have performed on that stage. That was awesome.
Now, but singing's not your only gig. You also do some other things.
Yes, over the last couple of years, I've been a big part of the Detroit poetry scene. I started writing poetry. I've done quite a few feature performances at different venues in the Detroit area. That has been awesome. I've been expanding what I've been doing. I started as just a singer and a performer, and I've gotten into writing and poetry and doing open mics.
What kind of poetry? What are the themes and your inspirations?
I'm girly. I write a lot of emotional poetry, love lost, bitter, heartbroken. Lately it's been a lot of positive, more on the love, falling in love. I want to be in love. I want to love you. So.
And you're also a mother. You have 2 daughters?
Yes, I have 2 daughters, 2 girls, 17 and 13.
They must be pretty proud watching you on the stage.
Yes, they are my motivation. That is my main inspiration, my girls.
Do you ever write or sing about them?
I do actually. I have some songs that I've performed, and when I perform them, I sing right to my girls, and they know. They
Nice.
know.
That's lovely. And so what are some of the spots in Detroit that you are doing poetry at?
I featured at 1917 American Bistro. I featured at Manila Bay Cafe, Nandi's Knowledge Cafe. I have been to a few different other spots, but those are the three that I frequent the most. They're absolutely awesome. They have open mic, they have feature performers. I love it. The Detroit poetry scene, it's like a big old family, and I love them.
So what are some of your goals for your poetry and for your performance, singing and otherwise?
Well, poetry-wise, I have a whole slew of poetry that I need to put together. I'd like to get a book published of my own poetry. Singing, I have some songs that I've written. I'm in the process of looking for a producer. My goal is to get at least a couple of original singles recorded by summertime. I just want to continue performing. I feel like I have a gift. I was given this voice to touch people, so I want to continue to reach out and give it my all. I have to use it so I don't lose it.
Well, I think it's interesting as artists, it has to be a freeing experience to be able to write something and put it out there. But it's also, it can be very vulnerable.
Yes.
Because when you write something, it's like, you know, you're basically laying your journal on a table and saying, everyone come and read my personal insights and stories and things like that.
It is, but like you said, it's freeing. It's nice to be able to release those emotions. I've learned over the years, if you keep everything bottled up inside, it doesn't do you or anybody else any good. And sometimes there's somebody else that can read what you've written and they can relate to it and it can help them. So it's kind of like paying it forward, because I know I've heard many songs and read lots of poetry where I can relate to that feeling and that emotion myself. So I pay it forward by putting myself out there and letting people read.
It's important. People think we all think we're very different until we have a conversation and realize even in completely different circumstances, we're all very similar.
Yes, definitely.
So thank you for coming. I'm really looking forward to hearing your performance and hearing you sing.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure and an honor.
We will be right back with Shaton Andrews.
Creole Gallery, located in the heart of a historic old town, is available for all your art gallery, showcases, special occasion, and business meeting needs. For booking, call 517-862-1553. New Citizens Press, the voice of the community, changing the mindset in the new millennium. Pick up your copy at your local Meijer or Kroger locations.
There's a hero if you look inside your heart. You don't have to be afraid of what you are. There's an answer if you search within yourself, and the sorrow that you know will melt away. And then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. So when you feel like hope is gone, look inside you and be strong, and you'll finally see the truth that a hero lies in you. It's a long road when you face the world alone. No one reaches out a hand for you to hold. You can find love if you search within yourself, and the emptiness you felt will disappear.
perseverance.